the Spitzer School of Architecture at City College, which um, is in Community Board 9. And we are excited to share with you something that I think Sean has presented to past members of the community board, but it's been a while, and I'm going to hand it over to Sean Rickenbacker, who is the director of the center, who's going to share a presentation about some of the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Lizzie. And thank you to the board for extending the invitation. I just want to cover a few things, particularly for the folks online. As Lizzie mentioned, the Bond Center is the Applied Research Center at the City College of New York, your neighbor and friend, I should say. And we're very familiar with you all, having worked in the past with board chairs, former Chair Weinberg and Padmore John in the past, along with folks from the Housing and Land Use Committee in its previous incarnations, the wonderful and incomparable April Tyler, prior to her passing, and Signe Mortensen and a few others. So it's really been a wonderful working relationship. We sort of lost some contact during the COVID era, and know that the board has sort of gone through some changes recently. So we think this is an important time to make this reconnection. Had the wonderful opportunity to share some of this work with your board chair. And so happy to be here this evening. Won't take too much of your time, just to let you know that we're very close and nearby. We have a space of about 1,400 square feet, and we certainly welcome members of the community and the board to certainly come by if they'd like to know more about what the Bond Center is working on. But this particular piece of work that we're happy to share with you all and hope that you find some value in it is called the Equitable Development Index. And to give you a kind of brief snapshot of what that entails, as many of you know, particularly the Housing and Land Use Committee, the ULUP process that the city employs to serve a number of purposes, to receive critical community input and engagement on projects that are seeking exceptions in the realm of upzoning, increased FAR, various exceptions that might be on the table as projects are being considered in these communities, and namely in Community Board 9, which we know from prior research has a small amount of developable land, therefore making each and every new project a kind of critical one in terms of how it's evaluated and assessed. And so part of our initiative here in creating this index was to afford communities as well as city agency members and elected officials an objective tool that could compare past projects as well as some more current and recent projects to one another along the key metrics that would really sort of determine a potential project's value. So in this regard, I'm going to share my screen, which probably should have did a little bit earlier, but here, let's see. Okay, so can I get just some confirmation that you all can see the screen?
Yep.
Great. Okay. So again, here's the center. We are particularly focused on our immediate community neighbors. So that would be Community Board 9, 10, and even in Upper Manhattan and Community Board 12, where we've been active. But we've also been doing work in other parts of the city on that regard. The Equitable Development Index, just to give you some background context. So the intention of this index is to provide objective scores based on decision makers' areas of concern to facilitate efficient comparison between developments around the city and provides clarity amidst the ruckus discourse of land use debates. Now, some of this introductory slide might be a little bit opinionated. It's somewhat based on experience and then the research that we've been conducted and being involved in several hearings, both within local communities as well as prior to getting to the communities where city agencies like city planning and HPD are doing their hard work of trying to have meaningful community engagement to see what some of the concerns are relative to these proposed projects. The context by which we're operating in, the reason why we felt we could bring a product like this to this demographic, community boards, communities, elected officials, is because invariably these projects are required to submit documents known as environmental impact studies, and sometimes in lower cases, environmental impact assessments. These documents contain extraordinarily useful information to be able to quantify using metrics, what are some of the valuable assets of the project that might bear in the community's decision to support or reject said project. Things like the percentage of affordable housing, target AMIs, the environmental impact, so CO2 emissions, small business and or economic development opportunities, training, programs, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things often have to be reported in these documents. Many of you who are familiar with these documents know that they can range anywhere from 200 to 400 pages, but buried within that density are these metrics that we find to be most useful in comparing one project to another. So in essence, the way that the index works is that it has a series of inputs. Those inputs come from real world projects that have either in the past been greenlit and approved, and in some cases rejected. And the reasons why may sort of be relative to that specific project, but we're able to pull all of the offerings that those projects would be bringing to the table, including those that some might deem as detrimental, like CO2 emissions, trash, and tonnage. We can measure all of those sorts of things. Loss or acquisition of green space or transference of green space, and those sorts of things. Once we have all that information, we are able to consider the details around that information. So in the case of housing, what's the gross buildable compared to another project? What is the percentage of affordability across the entire project? So per square foot, let's say. Community space, again, square footage dimensions there. Commercial space, what percentage geared towards small business versus large retail carve-outs, and so on. The way that metric selection works with regards to the user's priorities is that we provide a survey at the start of this process for the individual users. So let's say the Housing and Land Use Board, let's say a membership of 12 to 20 individuals, would start this process by filling out a questionnaire that addresses their particular priorities. That list of priorities is then averaged out to reflect the larger group. And so in completing that survey, we have a snapshot of the most pressing priorities that come forward through that survey. That list of priorities, the primary list representative of the overall group, is then used as a kind of input to then evaluate the metrics that the project is offering. And we're able to then calculate what we are generically calling an equity score based on those priorities. And again, the projects that we are comparing them to are real world projects that have, in some instances, been completed and built. So we're able to evaluate to some regard what were the positive attributes of those projects that might be a baseline for equal or greater comparison in future projects. And likewise for the negative attributes, what would we like to avoid that we've seen in other projects that have either been successfully built or rejected in the process that we can use as examples of what we don't want the project under consideration to potentially encounter. So as I've been mentioning here, this work is informed by real world projects, and this data is publicly available. The reason we started this work is because access to these documents and their length and depth of information makes it challenging for anyone, professionals included, to scan through 400 pages and pull out the essential information and data that you would like to use to perform these comparisons. Just for some background, the way that we've done this involves some large language models that have high rates of success of reading through these documents, parsing through it, and pulling out the relevant data that we need for our analysis. This has taken the greater part of 18 months to arrive at over 90%, 95% accuracy of these models being able to pull the relevant data, organize it, and allow us to then process it in the analysis process. So to develop this baseline metrics that we're using for comparing the building projects, we use several rounds of the precedent research to make sure that we're able to conduct this and perform the process consecutively and consistently over the range of projects that we've been testing it on. And I think we shared in one of the more recent presentations with your board chair, Mr. Edwards there, that we have piloted this with real world projects with Community Board 10 and some of their recent land use considerations, and it was pretty successful in what it was able to provide, particularly with objective scores and concerns being the highlight of the tool. So as I mentioned, there is a survey that makes this the opposite of a one-size-fits-all tool. This tool is geared toward the specific community that's using it, and the way that that works is that one community's priorities will be certainly different from another community. And the way that we, again, determine that is through the survey, of which you're seeing a snapshot here, that has a number of questions that we've found to be tailored to the information that is contained in environmental impact studies, and thus can be used to determine a relative score that's weighted based on the answers to these questions. So things like passive open space, one bedroom versus studio apartments, multi-bedroom apartment arrangements. We've tried to account for as many of what we consider to be the important variables that should go into an objective weighting of the value of these projects. So again, to determine the weighting, the user provides targeted priorities, which are reflected back in the scoring of the variables considered in the EDI and its algorithm. So from that data, we produce a score. We think that that is the most objective and reasonable way to approach this, with an understanding that if we have 3 significant users, let's say the Housing and Land Use Committee as one user, local elected officials as a second user, and perhaps even we've seen interest by developers to use this to see exactly where their individual scores would land. And that would give some baseline of how far apart the scores were in terms of the priorities that each one of those demographics has. The land use committee who's voting on the project, the elected officials and their teams who are trying to gauge the value of the project as they go through the negotiation process, and the developer themselves that are part of the public-private market that is bringing these projects to bear. Right. So again, providing an overall score along with a category by category breakdown. As you can see here, there's an overall score, then there's a housing score, potentially a displacement score, commercial score, and a kind of public assets, let's say community benefit score, in terms of some of those other offerings that the project might provide. So this process, we think, can speed up the evaluation process. We think it provides comprehensive feedback on the project, understands where shortfalls might be, and facilitates a more productive discourse between the interested parties. We do have a prototype. We won't go through the demo of that prototype this evening. It takes a little bit more time. But right now, we have a dashboard of sorts that allows the users to, as they customarily would in any kind of software and or website application, there'll be a series of drop-downs that you can select the various projects and do 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 or 1-to-4 comparisons to the existing profile of projects that we have in our database, which currently is just over about 30 or so projects that we can pull from that are from around the city. And then we have project summaries that are offered to give, let's say, an example of the best performing factors. And then we also have score details or breakouts that can give slightly more information on how a project produced a particular score on, let's say, the commercial space or the residential spaces attributed to that project. So some new features that are currently underway, as I may have mentioned, some of the other partners, in addition to Community Board 10 in supporting this project, been some city council members, but also the city council speakers land use committee has been a collaborator, and one of their ask, if you will, was, could we introduce a financial model that can be plugged into this to give users just a cursory view of what a average pro forma might look like. And so what I mean by pro forma, for those who may be unfamiliar, what does the financial model to bring this project to bear potentially look like? Now, we cannot directly reflect what that model would look like from the developer's point of view, but we've often have encountered questions about why can't a project be 100% affordable? To answer that question, we're providing a series of comps across the city of projects that contain some aspect of affordable housing, and what the private investment looks like and what the public subsidy looks like to greenlight those projects. This way, again, hopefully comparing apples to apples in those scenarios. And then lastly, we're able to also, as projects do change, so a developer presents the initial project proposal, and then a year later returns with a new proposal, we're also able to compare iterative project comparison so that you can see the changes and maybe even rank those changes as they are being presented to you. So lastly, to wrap up here, the full potential of the project, we see this as potentially a citywide useful project. It bears more scrutiny now that we have some recent legislation that has passed related to the City of Yes and fast tracking some of these projects. And so this tool might find itself even more critical because it can probably keep pace with the new sped up timelines that the city is interested in seeing as they address some of these opportunities for development throughout the 5 boroughs. So beyond the development of this pilot version, which we sort of surpassed already, an expanded platform could automatically generate property profiles. So you can plug in an address you can immediately start to see, based on the database, what some of the sample proformas might look like given the information on the FAR and the development size that was being proposed. So this last slide is somewhat internal, but we often share it. This is, again, we don't present this as a silver bullet, but in fact, a very useful tool, which I like to say we use to democratize the market's data. The city and developers can move very rapidly in this market to assess the value of a project. We think this tool becomes incredibly instrumental in allowing communities to do the same. And so again, be able to have objective reasoning as to how they might go about evaluating these projects on like terms, and then any other information that is asserted to those projects can be layered on top of that with some confidence that it now speaks to the real world dynamics that are being generated through this backlog of data that we now have access to and are looking to leverage on the behalf of the users and the three parties that I had initially stated in this brief presentation. So I probably went a little bit over my 10 minutes here, I think. So I'll stop there and perhaps take any questions if there is time and or interest. But like I said, we at the Bond Center are available and see ourselves as a community partner. So more than happy to entertain some scheduled times where people might want to come by the center and learn a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. This is fantastic. I was gonna ask because I enjoy playing with that data in terms of the user and selecting priorities. Is it possible to switch those priorities to see how the data may change depending on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. If you change your priorities, you will see the change in the score. And that opens up a valuable opportunity for critical discussion.
Wonderful. And that doesn't mess with anything I might be adding on, or would it add on as well, does it dictate user preferences, I guess?
No. It's agnostic with regard to the start. And so the user sets up a profile. You can change that profile based on how you answer the survey in a second go around. And in each time, the tool will certainly tell you, in this case, what is your best and worst performing factors based on the new allocation of different priorities. And again, I think what this is most useful is even internally, as land use and housing committees meet internally, often there's a debate within that group in and of itself. And so this allows the conversation to proceed, but now relative to some fixed information that everyone is working with.
Wonderful. I guess my follow-up to that is because I love the idea of adding the financial models, just because that's probably usually the hardest one to grasp if you don't have anything in front of you. I mean, you have term sheets, which you might use as a guide. But do you find, in terms of the financial model, that these would include not just private development, but also public, including NYCHA, for example? I think they're trying something. Their real estate folks are trying some new financial models, and would this include those things as well?
Well, so because again, as you sort of intimate yourself, that world of the capital stack for real estate development projects is incredibly opaque and in many instances complex. And so not to overestimate one's ability to unpack all of that, what we're providing is just a snapshot of other public-private partnerships, so projects that have received subsidies that have similar or like distribution of affordable units mixed in with market rate, which currently amounts to, over 90% of the projects that HPD pursues are often in that category. So
Nice.
we wouldn't necessarily give you a comparative pro forma of a only market rate building. We want you to understand, without getting into the term sheets of HPD and the developer, what these look like in general. So we can use average market data on cost per square foot of construction. That accounted against the cost per unit in the affordable category, the gap financing that HPD would then supply. And we've done this modeling at the center for a number of years now. So we're quite comfortable with it, but we don't present it as a fixed model associated with any one project, because quite frankly, that would be a dangerous assumption to make. These are guidelines, so you can stay within the bounds of what HPD would like us to all understand as we evaluate their contribution to the project and what the community may or may not get back in return. And we can now compare one project to another, particularly those that may have received a kind of good score in the past, as this is an interesting model. Let's see how that was produced, what that financial model looked like based on what the units are being sold for, what the construction costs go for, et cetera. But just for full disclosure, no developers who have worked with HPD have opted to share their pro formas. Right. So we're using market standards to generate our own, and some other really sound researchers, forgetting the gentleman's name at Rutgers, has done this with respect to the super talls. And many in the industry have verified that he came pretty close with those mock pro formas, so that the general public could understand how those projects come about.
Oh, damn. I'm loving this. Last question, I promise.
Don't want to take up all of your time, so we're here. We have time, but I know you guys have some other things to cover.
Sure. In terms of user, and in terms of like looking at projects, am I, as the user, defining the area in which I want to see certain projects, or would it just show me everything citywide? Like, could I do by community board versus just
that's a great question. That's a great question. So we didn't want to assume that the awareness of other community boards and their projects was so immediate. So because the sample size of projects is currently in that 30 range or so, and we think we're going to be able to add more in the very near future. So let's say it gets to 40 projects. What we provide is the address and the borough of the project. And then the community board or the community person can then make the association of, well, what community board is that? But oftentimes, you may not find a project that's comparable in your own community board. And so let's say you're looking at a project at 100,000 square feet. You're going to have to look around the city to find others in that range. Then you might assess the demographics of those other communities relative to yours. So some of this still requires the user to do a little bit of homework to build a full picture of the context. But we help do that because we're providing you with location-based information, perhaps not the demographic comparative information at this present time.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Let me open it up.
I'm interested in knowing how we can arrange to come over and get an even more detailed view of the project and how it works. And
Sure. So yeah, we're happy to what we describe as sort of unleash a demo on you, so you can see it in real time. And so I think in the coming year we have certainly some opportunities in late January where we're currently, as I presented in this roadmap, we have successfully completed what is now the data pipeline. So again, these EIS reports are maintained and kept online by HPD, and or actually it's moved in the recent 6 months or so. So I'll have to just confirm on that. But our pipeline pulls directly from those sources. So that's what we sort of took quite a while to sort of build that out and be able to extract and populate the spreadsheets so that we can start the analysis process. So we'll walk you through that, because that's very, very important, so that we're able to kind of replicate, or anyone who wants to replicate the scoring can understand how the weighting process works and verify that the data is in fact accurate. Because there is often times in the public domain concerns about the authenticity of the data. If it's accurate, has it been produced? Has it been cooked in any way? And so we want to make sure that that's not a concern here. And in this way, we solicit the city agencies and saying that this is their reports. You're more than welcome to go through the several hundred pages and locate this information. But we feel very, very confident that, number one, that is in fact there. Once we give you some of that background, we actually go through the survey, let you generate what it is, a list of priorities, and then we start selecting the projects. And then those projects will generate the scores. You're able to click on the drop down to get a brief explanation of how that score has been generated. And like I said, some of the characteristics of the worst and, let's say, best performing factors across that. So like I said, I'm happy to reach out to the committee with some dates in late January to invite you all over for a live demo.
That would be great.
Absolutely, yeah. If one wanted to sign up as a user, is there like a link, or what would be the way to do that?
So public consumption at the moment, we're not allowing just yet, because we're still, quite honestly, in the pilot stage. We had a sort of informal non-disclosure agreement with Community Board 10 as we were building this out, because these are very sensitive matters. And so we want to make sure that if a project is being evaluated this way, we need to let all parties know. So right now we're just in the piloting phase. And since the land use committee at the speakers city council group, since they've been a collaborator, we're also very sensitive to the perception of endorsing anything. And so in that regard, we are trying to produce equal usage and piloting across community boards, elected officials, and the land use team at the speakers group. And we know that the city council speaker, the new speaker who's coming in, will have to be brought up to speed. We'll have to evaluate their continued interest and support in this. We're pretty confident, but we want to make sure we go through the proper channels in anticipation that we don't want any one particular party to refer to it and any other party be blindsided by being unaware of what it is and how it has somehow influenced the outcome of their project.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Ah, damn. Well, I know I'm ready to sign up as a tester when ready.
Great. It's great to know. And we need more testers. So we'll certainly make use of your interest and the community's work only to support it, and also for you all to be collaborators in helping to build this out and making it the best possible tool it could be.
Wonderful. Sweet. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Miss working with you guys. So we are, hotly anticipating reconnecting and working on what I think is really important issues for all of us. So look forward to reconnecting in the new year. And until then, happy holidays and thank you for your work.
Thank you
Thank
kindly.
you.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, this is fantastic.
No, this is something else, but we have a quorum.
We do have quorum. All right, yeah. So let me go back real quick. Do I have a motion to adopt our today's agenda? Starting. Do we have a second?
Second. That's a public one.
All right. Uh, let's get.
Say all in favor and then
we all
say aye.
All in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
It passes. Next up, adopting our meeting minutes. Huge thank you to Siggy for putting that down.
If you're here.
I'm taking it off. Figure if you can do it, I can do it.
I can help you with the AI part if you need.
Okay,
I
and
see
then I,
that you had, AI assistance.
Yes, well, I got that in the office, but we can.
Oh, yeah, no, actually, I was curious because, what do you call it, in trying to figure out like note-taking, potentials. One of our contacts from the Spectator brought up a particular software that I wanna
Interesting.
try out called Otter AI. So
That's
we'll-
what we use, I think.
Is it what we
Nice.
use?
Isn't that what we use on the Zoom?
Is the Zoom honor?
Yeah, sure.
I
Yeah.
have no idea.
You sent it to me. It's a
Huh.
text.
Okay,
So I guess we're using it.
I guess we're using it,
they anticipated you.
right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, next up, adoption of,
Yeah, right.
yeah, adoption of the minutes.
I
Do
move that we
have a
adopt the
motion?
minutes with any necessary corrections.
There were corrections on the minutes.
Yes.
There was a new draft that was passed around.
Were the October minutes never done?
No, we have to.
Okay, just
Yeah.
curious. I noticed that and it's like. oh.
Yeah, well, while we have access to this, I'll pull it out before we end today
Yeah.
and we'll get that resolved. So I have the adoption. Do I have a second?
No.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we've adopted November's minutes. Looking at new business, the only changes I don't have budget needs updates. That was from last month. I'm gonna go into 4 Hancock, please, or should I?
Yeah, that seems like put on here.
All right. So this is an interesting one. So this is an application that came through the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, also known as DCAS. This is a deed modification request for a property over at 4 Hancock Place. This, if you've not seen it, let me see if I could pull it up on here.
It's a lot adjacent to the Payson Firehouse.
Okay, you,
Pull up the one.
is it the firehouse itself?
It's right next to the firehouse.
Is-
You know how there's kind of like a garden?
The little garden next door.
Okay,
The staff
okay, I
firehouse.
got you.
Thing. Okay. Yeah.
So this was submitted from the current owners?
Yes,
Property?
yeah, it's coming from the current owner of that phase on.
Yeah, see, this is what I
George.
always get is the
Yeah.
gas station.
Yeah.
If it's, no,
Yes.
I think
No.
you were better off with the last one. 'cause
If you go to
just
the
zoomed
street
in.
view, which I think Matina's doing, it'll be easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta move the cursor. What did it do?
Come on. Nope. I'm on the wrong corner.
It's up the
That way,
street.
yep, it's right, yeah, it goes straight there and then down that road a little.
Yeah,
There we are.
there it is.
Mm,
There we go. All right.
Can you find a parking space?
Oh,
What the fudge? Come on. You're good.
Drop the little man, it might be easier,
Yeah.
Man, or lady.
or lady.
You should be sitting back there with me, because the heater's right.
Oh, yeah.
Come sit back here with
Heater's
me,
on
girl.
right.
Good, I just felt that, so wait a minute.
Here it is, that's.
So that gap between the two buildings,
So let me share this now.
That I think that was in, that was a part of the theater there.
Yes, so it is. So
Right.
the firehouse is 6 Hancock Place. And then this next door space that we see here is 4 Hancock.
Right.
So the deed modification is being requested by the same owner. Who bought this property years back in the early 2000s. And there was a deed restriction because the firehouse that we see over here was constructed a little bit over 100 years ago during a time when the city had an initiative called the City Beautiful movement. And so in this time period, the whole idea was that they wanted to tackle city issues by beautification. And so you have a lot of like civic buildings, if for anybody who's familiar with like 1 Center Street, where the current Manhattan Borough President has an office. They use example, and same with this one. We're looking at an example of Beaux Arts. You also see expressions of that over at Columbia, under McKinney and Mead. And so there's a historical significance. And so whenever the city sells property of this type and there's a deed restriction, it's usually for a reason. And in this particular case, the idea was to have some level of preservation for the firehouse next door. So the current deed, when this property was purchased, said that, you know, you can make additions to 6 Hancock Place using 4 Hancock Place, but you cannot demolish 6 Hancock Place to build one whole building for both lots. And so that's kind of where this deed modification comes in, where the owner is specifically seeking to remove that restriction so that it can be, I'm assuming they want to flip it for a profit. Only because I've did a little bit of research and it seemed like that was sort of like the marketing for potential owners. Now, like I said, the reason the city kind of did this was to put some level of preservation. And they specifically put that restriction so that you cannot do what the owner's trying to do, which is to flip this for a profit. And,
This is landmark.
and it's not landmarked. I mean, what's kind of come before us is a decision whether we want to keep this as is. Do we want to make a modification to the deed, or do we just want to reject it outright?
Well, I have a question as to process, and maybe Barry or Signe, you've dealt with these deed modifications before.
A while.
no, this is a big deal because. So you've noticed they mentioned local law 174 of 2016. We helped get that law passed because Harlem, it was Dance Theater of Harlem.
Yes.
Yeah, Dance Theater of Harlem sold a vacant lot that they had bought from the city to a developer that was developed as market rate housing. And the restriction on it had prevented that, and they hired a lobbyist who paid the city, you know, some amount of money to remove the restriction, and they flipped it. And the same thing happened downtown on Rivington Place with a nursing home. And so after much hue and cry, this law was passed. So now these deed restrictions must come before community boards so that shit like this doesn't happen. And I think that so Mateen, what was the existing restriction?
The existing restriction places so that you can create an addition to 6 Hancock Place, but you cannot demolish in order to, unify the two lots, because it's two lots that are, it's kind of like a 2-for-1.
Did they submit something in writing?
Yeah, they,
Yeah, it's in the
application that is submitted. I thought it was, that it was restricted to accessory. It could be developed only as an accessory. use.
Accessory extension or enlargement.
Right.
Well, the little lot, now that I'm looking at, it, that little lot, it's really not, it doesn't look like it's not taken care of, a lot, because they have those little rat traps around there, and the fireplace itself, he has like statues out there, this fire station, and cars sitting in there, because I guess he can't sit the car out there on the curb, so he has everything, within, and that little lot looks like it's really not being kept up to par, literally.
He claims he's,
Because I'm saying for him, like I'm past there all the time.
yeah, I haven't seen it, so I don't. know
Yeah,
what-
yeah, it's not
I'm
taken
just saying
care
that
of, it could
he
be,
claims
you know,
in his-
Yeah, that's fine.
modified, but,
But that's not about,
Right.
what we see at the building.
Well,
exactly.
but to
But
me,
the
yeah, sorry.
the fire station itself, inside is really nice.
Yeah,
It's really nice, and, he gives like nice shows for up and coming artists and plays and things like that. So, yeah, but that little area, it could be upgraded, because there's really nothing being done with
yeah,
it.
you can see building around it and keeping the building intact.
Exactly.
Do I wanna see that building demolished? No. Okay.
Well, no, he really did a good job
But
in it.
but my question, a procedural question, what's our input here? Because I read the regulations, and as I understood them, what happens is that the agency does its own independent study of the various criteria and makes a recommendation, and then holds a hearing, but it didn't. And determines along the way whether ULURP is required or not, which I don't know why it would be in this case, but it didn't sound to me as if they were at this point soliciting a recommendation from the community board. And I'm just wondering if anybody's been through this process before and knows differently.
No one's been through it. This is the first time it's been used since the law was passed in 2016 in this community district.
Yeah.
And so I think that, our role is what we make it.
I hear you, man.
And if we want to make it a big deal, which we should, George has fought for years the landmarking of that building. Because he didn't, and he didn't want to make the theater a nonprofit, which is fair enough. But I think that the community's interest is definitely in maintaining the theater structure. Number one. Number two is in maintaining its community facility use. I think it's valuable to have that as a venue in the district.
There's up and coming artists there. Yeah.
And so I think we sit down with DCAS and we tell them we would like to play a role in this, number one. And then number two, I think we sit down with George and I think we come to some sort of agreement that if we do lift this restriction on the adjacent lot, number one, we make sure that we know what could be built there in terms of the existing zoning. We don't want to unleash a sliver building or something. And then number two, one of the conditions is that the firehouse be preserved, both structurally and ideally as a community facility. And so I don't know if that means that I don't know if George is going to sell the whole thing. I think he is. And if so, maybe that means he sells it for a not maximum market value to an arts nonprofit that then runs it as a community facility space. But I think we can give ourselves a lot of role and agency here, and we'll be able to do that as much as DCAS plays ball. And this is use of Salam's district, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can work with the council member too.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Sean, isn't it districts?
No.
That's near the 125 state office building?
Yeah. No, so we got the notification and then Dr. Salam or Councilmember Salam also received.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it's here, so a line is very.
Yeah, well, I think part of the question is because this is like exactly at the border of
Right.
9 and 10, whether we wanna combine forces.
No.
Well, it's technically a 9, but
They have no interest in combining forces on their vacant lot on St. Nicholas. And I see no reason to combine forces on this particular lot. I mean,
cool.
We're good on
yeah,
That's
and,
fair.
and that's just a level of respect that we both have for each other mutually as boards.
Okay.
The. I think that I think we should sit down with George, number one. I think we should talk to Councilmember Salam quickly, number two, and say, hey, this is on our radar. We would love to be a team on this. And then I think we flag to DCAS that we're playing a role in this, and please don't make a decision. And, you know, don't let George pay some lobbyist who shoved something through in the waning days of the Adams administration. Which is what the other people did that caused this law to pass.
Okay. Or do we?
Yeah, I went to City College and I worked at that place that this man was talking about.
Mhm.
Which I also want us to keep a track of time with people talking, because these meetings last really long. When I was working there, we canvassed the entire area, and a lot of the legal problems we had was that all the area on Common Avenue is historical landmark, so any changes that you make had to go through the state, and therefore you could change or rearrange things. But I see so many buildings on Common that had nothing to do with the historical architecture of the neighborhood. Since '93, I've seen so many changes. On 150, you have this kind of cute white building that it looks more like a Greek, kind of like new type of architectural building, which is kind of cute, but it has nothing to do with Common Avenue. Despite that ugly church, that whole area is pristine for its architecture beauty. And then you have that 150, then you have that 153rd enormous awful thing that should be crashed there.
Oh.
And then we have that place on 155th that is also really ugly structurally. And it passed also, and all these ugly things keep passing. And I think I am one of those people who say, if people have to present projects to us, say no until you prove that you're worth the time.
Is the one on 153rd, is that where the vacant dance theater parlor lot was?
That was 152nd, wasn't it?
The big
I used to live in that
enormous
block.
thing that you can see from anywhere.
Oh, on Riverside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
Yeah. All right.
Which I have an opinion about. I think that thing should go bankrupt and then we should rearrange what
So
we
true.
need to do with it.
Yeah,
Because housing is important.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, we've asked the BSA who's reviewing that to keep us informed of what happens.
He said, ugly.
It is really on.
It is. I remember they were building it, but they need to stay within the structure of the buildings that are here already. Because it seems like in several boroughs, they are really building these buildings that looks like it doesn't coincide with the geographics, and it doesn't look good.
Very
Like-
true.
Like you said, it's ugly.
That building takes the sun from so many people.
Yeah, that one
around.
building,
It's a terrible thing. And are you telling me that nobody's checked that out? That is the first
Oh,
thing
yeah.
you do. When you go, no, when you go into an architectural project, they make you go to the side and draw it up. And daytime and nighttime. And you have to draw it up and you have to put all the shades and all that, hour by hour, so you can see what the light is gonna be like. That is awful that. I was not here, by the way, when that happened, so. And I know really good people who were here, and you guys probably fought it, but how did that go? Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
So much to say.
When you're talking about having this conversation with George, are we talking about inviting him to do a presentation at a committee meeting, or are we talking about something
More informal.
It might be more informal
I
to
would do
start.
something more informal to start. It's not, because it doesn't sound like he has a proposal
Yeah,
that he submitted to DCAS.
it was not unusual when we were doing this to have side chats with developers before they even needed to give them a heads up.
Because there is-
to expect.
There is no, I think that the team's assessment is correct, that he's just trying to flip this. So there is no developer here, there's no project here.
That we know of.
Well,
Mhm.
this
Right.
is why a conversation with George might reveal.
Well, I don't see how there could be if he hasn't gotten the deed modification yet. I mean, once he got the
Those type
stuff.
person sitting around.
No, I mean.
Well,
because-
yeah, that may be, all I'm saying is, there's nobody, there's nothing on the
Yeah.
table to look at, or,
Yeah, that's why a more sidebar conversation with him might
Right.
reveal.
right, but
Yeah,
what is,
I mean, but we don't know that there is a developer or isn't, because a developer may say, well, if this were lifted, then we could do this and we would pay you. X money.
whatever, we're
Yeah.
not, there's just nobody to sit down with.
There's George.
I get that, but we're not gonna be able to say we don't like what you're doing here, because he's not gonna.
But we'll be able to
I
say.
like
Why maybe we not have them come to a meeting, because there's gonna be people that
Right.
start getting
Right.
up in arms, and
Okay.
maybe a sidebar chat is gonna be the kinder.
I'm not suggesting we should, but I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
wondering.
The purpose of that is to tell him what the community board is going to look for in
Yes.
something that they would
What
like
works.
and what they won't like,
Mhm.
right? So if you can know ahead of time that you have this idea and we think we're gonna tell you that those parts are bad and we're gonna tell you that these parts are good. Revise your idea before you come to us then and
Right.
take our feedback, and that's usually the courtesy we give folks.
He thinks this is gonna be more attractive if they can live that, and
And we're
Get
like,
it,
well,
but-
why would we allow that?
right, why should we allow that?
Yeah.
You know, this is a beautiful building, and
Done, and I feel like at least meeting with us, we can kind of help dictate what the deed modification could look like.
Right.
In terms that it's something that could help both the owner and the community.
Oh, there is precedent for this, although not since 2016. Reverend Morgan Thomas in PS 186. PS 186 had a deed restriction on it
Oh,
that
right.
required it to be used for community facility use. It was intended to be the site of the Harlem Boys and Girls Club.
right,
They didn't have the money to renovate it. It fell into complete disrepair, trees growing through the middle. And they wanted to cut a deal that would allow them to tear it down, and then we build this new fancy condo building and they get a space, and we're like, absolutely not. And the agreement that was cut was that they would rehabilitate the space. It would be a light tech development, 100% low income housing, and they would get the lower level for the Boys and Girls Club. And in exchange, the city would then agree to modify the deed restriction. So there is precedent for us having a significant amount of input and ability to shape projects when it comes to these things. Although that was even more informal, because back then, there wasn't even the
Didn't have a
requirement they
lot.
notified the community. Right.
How was the Reverend involved in that case?
She's chair.
She was chair of the board. And so she was the one who said, no, you can't put down the building. No, yes, you have to restore it. And no, it's not market based. It's still one of the best developments this board has ever facilitated.
Yeah.
I mean, 100% low income. community
Not
facility.
like sugar building, but.
It scored very highly on their.
Index, I'm just saying.
saw.
We didn't have a big choice in the design of it, from my understanding.
They used the architect to get financing. I
Finance,
think.
yeah.
People were willing to open their wallets
This
for
is
David.
where you
Guy.
balance this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, George, sit down with George
Okay.
and have a chat.
So, so then it kind of makes sense, at least for now, to table this. Or,
Well, what
or
would you,
no?
so what are our priorities is the discussion, I think, that makes sense.
Right.
the landmark or I mean, forget that thing landmark, that'd be great.
Right.
Community facility use, and
Retain.
if there is housing developed on the adjacent lot, affordability.
And maybe height. You know,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a building like one square.
We can actually say.
Yeah.
Also, George bought this for $24,000.
Right,
Wow.
right,
So he's gonna be making a 99% profit on this,
no matter what.
no matter what.
So wouldn't George know what's transpiring over in that little lot? On the sit down side talk? Wouldn't he know what's transpiring with that lot?
He owns it.
Oh, yeah, he owns
So
it.
he's the one putting that stuff in there. If you have an issue with what's in there now, that's a separate conversation with him to say, as the owner, we wanna see that cleaned up right now.
Oh, so George owns that,
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
He-
along with the
with
building.
the.
And he wants to be able to sell it to a developer.
Oh, no.
As much as it may not look great right now.
Right,
But we don't wanna use that as an argument too.
Right, okay, I got you now, okay, got it.
There are already height restrictions, right? And it's a C4 or something.
So commercial districts don't usually have very strong height restrictions.
So on the left and right there, it's what, an 8, 9 story building?
Yeah,
For the information floor.
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah.
7, the other side looks.
What is
a
it,
little
1950, 55?
Maybe like 9.
Yeah, 55 is the lot, is the open lot. 56 is the.
Oh, it's 56 is the one.
56
Oh,
and
no, it's 50, it's 50. Because owner's George Faison. So zoning is. This is a bunch of assessed valuations, deed. Zoned commercial or residential, just tell me the designation, please. Zoning, C44D.
That-
That doesn't sound like a real district, does it? C44D zoning, okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, general commercial contextual district, it is contextual. It has a height cap of. Prevalent here, oh, so this is similar to R8A, so the height cap would be about 12 floors probably, or 12 stories.
Build a decent amount.
Yeah.
Would we consider the building above the building, these the kinds of things that we consider.
Right, but a 12-story building is gonna be 9 stories higher than that firehouse.
Got it.
There's a new building across the street, it's pretty high, I'm not sure how tall it is, but it's pretty
Yeah.
tall. You swing around?
yeah, that's, what's that?
Yeah, all over 134.
No,
It's all in construction.
Yeah, that one,
Yeah.
that's 11 Hancock,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
Although that's
yeah,
the
that's 11
setback.
Hancock.
Yeah, that's,
Mhm.
wow.
Oh,
What
The
is
older
that?
building to the left is fairly, I mean, well, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I think it's.
That's the medical building right there.
Yeah, so at
Yeah,
least
the
8 to 9 floors?
Right, the same.
Yeah,
That's quite a setback.
Right.
Yeah,
so 9 to 10 stories, but it's got a,
CB10 side, that's being the 3.
it's 120
Yeah.
feet for
More like a
inclusionary housing.
CB10.
120 feet for what?
Include for inclusionary housing, meaning they build affordable housing. Or if it were on a wide street.
Couldn't they get more benefits? And this is like me trying to think about like 16 convent in relation to this, but like, couldn't the city of Yes keep the landmarking, be able to build more housing and preserve the other space as a facility?
You are talking about moving the unused zoning rights from the firehouse to the adjacent lot?
Yes. I don't, yeah, like a very,
So contextual districts make that. Right. And so. If you were to do that. And you didn't want to compromise on height. Which I don't think you'd want a sliver building there. You would potentially cantilever over the firehouse. which would be kind of funky.
Yeah, no, that would,
Terrible again.
yeah.
I'm just telling you how it would
But
work.
Yeah, no, but I appreciate it, yeah.
But it takes away from them.
What we're trying to
Structure,
actually, yeah. No, that's a good point.
And then next to that is the old Silingham building
Mhm.
that's next to there,
The Ryan Health.
so that's pretty.
Right there.
Tall building.
Oh, that's 9 stories. 1, 2,
Looks
3,
like
4,
nine.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You were born there?
Inside them, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
But-
God damn.
I couldn't believe when they made it into the parking.
Absolutely.
God damn. All right. So then, next steps, let's meet with Joel.
And call DCAS and call Yusuf.
All of that should be on the action items. For Cock, okay. All right, the rest of our agenda items are pretty light. Next up is our community planning fellow. Pull this in.
We've also got Audrey on the line.
Here, let me stop sharing. Bring folks on. Let me acknowledge Audrey from DCP. Hey, is Jose with you today?
Jose is not with me today, just me.
Gotcha. All right.
How's
Well,
it
we love having you, Audrey.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Yes, so next up, we have, we have a community planning fellow who I don't see present tonight, but we got a community planning fellow, and this particular fellow is gonna be working on a few things with us. I know one of the things that we're gonna want to make sure he has the tool access for is definitely gonna be to this EDI index. Because overall, we're looking at, let's see. Yeah, so the community planning fellow is gonna be doing a few things. They're gonna be mapping out housing resources. So to kind of like centralize for any constituents who are seeking housing resources, whether that's seeking housing, legal, or any kind of support in relation to housing. There's going to be like kind of like an all-in-one centralized resource that this fellow is going to be working on. I bring up housing, but it's also going to include other resources that involves health. The fellow is also going to be doing an assessment of recently built housing, in which I could see something like the EDI becoming very useful. They're going to be analyzing supportive housing and supportive housing that currently exists within this community board, and doing a cross comparison with Harlem and other neighborhoods. They'll also be identifying area median income thresholds that currently exist for projects that are out there, and see whether we can make a comparison to the area median income of the community board. So in all essence, this community fellow is going to be helping us build out our informational sense to kind of like help us dictate with decisions when it comes to things that comes across this particular committee's desk that should not only benefit us, but it should benefit the community at large, as well as other members who are either seeking resources, who are either looking to build out their academic searches, or wherever they might fall in their journey. And so, we're really excited to be working with this community planning fellow. His name is Arnav Sahai. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And we look forward to providing updates as this project moves forward.
Before we get on to the zoning 101 training, I want to get Victor back here.
Sure.
Because I think he should be part of this conversation.
Sure. While we wait for Victor, the one thing I was gonna bring up was, because it was brought up at the last executive meeting, was, in terms of thinking about event planning for 2026. It seems like every committee kind of does something different, but, we may want to think about what kind of events that we want to plan. I think this zoning 101 training is gonna be a really good addition to it. But this could kind of like branch out. This might be something where we might want to work with existing community-based organizations. Maybe we want to have like a specific kind of housing type forum. There's no limit to it, but I wanted to have this one open for everyone, just so as we're coming into the new year. Anything that we can do to kind of like help bring in resources for community members, or that's gonna help benefit wherever, folks are in their housing journey, that we could at least have some way of like making that accessible to folks, whether it's NYCHA, supportive housing, new development, ULURP. And that one is more of an announcement. I think the first great thing that we have going on is gonna be that zone 101 training. But I just want to bring that one out for everyone. So, if you have something in mind, let's make it happen.
As a reminder, we do have some discretionary funds to help us in those things, so keep that in mind. That has to be towards like outreach of those
Gotcha.
things, right? Outreach to the community. In past, we've done open house type of situations. We bring in resources. We've done panel discussions on pertinent issues that we've been coming across. The HVMCs were in the news. The big thing, city forums.
It might make sense to also add a training from the Department of Buildings that they offered us last year when we brought up the issue with the building on 153rd.
Yeah.
Because there is a role that the public can play in the process of filing buildings permits and zoning diagrams, and so they offered to conduct a training for us on that, and it might be nice to have like a double header.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Actually, I also have a question for Audrey that I just remembered. Audrey, do you know if it's likely that 1727 will be on the public meeting agenda for January 21st or February 4th?
Hi, Barry. That's a good question. We're still figuring that out. It totally depends on when the borough president's office gets their recommendation in, and and then we go from there. So I
Gotcha.
haven't I checked our portal today. I have not seen their letter.
Let's go back to zoning.
Yeah, so I know we had like our first meeting with Audrey, kind of talk about what this 101 might look like. So any sort of input will definitely help. I know one of the things I know we were talking about was having an overview of zoning, an overview of DCP, the City of Yes initiative, and how the upcoming ballot proposals could affect the zoning process. And I don't know if I'm saying.
Well, yeah,
Good.
I think the other, well, we did have a very nice conversation with Audrey on December 3rd, and it's Audrey, you should jump in if I'm not getting anything, if anything's inaccurate here, but basically it's a PowerPoint presentation that Audrey conducts. It takes about 30 minutes, I believe, and then a question and answer period. It's still being developed because the new charter revisions have not been incorporated yet, or City of Yes. The presentation will be by Zoom, and it's open. It will be open to everybody. So I think one of the reasons I thought it would be a good idea to have Victor here is to talk about what the best way to schedule it is. I think Audrey suggested that this was gonna be at some point or available at some point around mid-February. And Matina and I asked whether in order to include the maximum number of people, whether we could make a recording of it so that it could be shown to different groups later on. So was that, Audrey, did that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, that was totally accurate, and I'll just add that the delay in our end is there because of the charter changes and City of Yes, and just aligning the information that we're sharing with community boards across the boroughs. We're hoping to have that info in January, and so I wish that we had it sooner, but that's our timeline right now. And if anything changes, I will certainly let you know.
So I'm assuming that what we're gonna try and do here is schedule this at a day and time. It's gonna be convenient to everybody on Community Board 9 as opposed to just the committee. Is that correct?
Yes.
So,
That's great.
so how would we, there's suggestions about what would be the best way of doing that?
Might have to give that some thought, to see how we can get the maximum number of people, because people interchange between committees often, so I don't wanna just say just your committee.
Right.
And it's good for other committees as well, to, and everyone on board to have input. To pick a certain day or to get the maximum number of people. And if we have it recorded, maybe do it more than once. And DCPs has to be there for it or not? Audrey, would you want to be there for it, or could we run it just as a recording as well?
Well, the first
First
one,
one.
she would.
Yes.
certainly be
Yeah. The first one I'd be there, and then how many subsequent, and I think recording it is a great idea. How many subsequent meetings would you have, do you think?
Viewings. We'll call them viewings.
Viewings.
Try to get maximum number in when you're there, but maybe another 2 or 3.
Well, one that might make sense would be in May, right? If the borough president does, or April, if they get them in on time, because that'll be the new members appointed to CB9.
But also Barry, the new administration hates everything that this corrupt administration has put out. So I doubt that a lot of these programs that are being run today are gonna be in existence January. In addition to that, the City of Yes was so full of holes. And I wasted so many hours listening to people talk about really silly stuff. Lack of preparation was often the case. And I'm here listening and listening and listening. And I'm just ready to meet Mandan and talk about all the issues we have in this administration, in this district altogether with housing and whatnot.
Right.
So
But
I don't know if this is gonna be.
for the
effective
time
yet.
being, this is what's in place, so we need
Yeah.
to learn what's in place.
Yeah.
If that changes, then we'll change with it, but for now, I'd be very interested in learning exactly what this is, in case it does change. If it doesn't,
Okay.
we'll adjust ourselves.
Yeah.
30 minutes out of our life is not that much.
Let's go,
It
this
is-
plan.
What do they say? Be prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
Hope
yeah,
for the
no,
best.
and-
So
And it's good for the whole board to be informed,
Yeah.
especially if we are gonna say
With
it,
changing,
Yeah,
it's
with-
changing
yeah.
all the time.
yeah,
So, and it helps other committees as well.
absolutely.
So, well, Audrey, if we did tape this, would it be something that we could essentially take ownership of, or would it be something where we would be asking you to make it available from time to time, because it's certainly more flexible. Seems to
Kind of like a
me.
consent release.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
we had it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll have to follow up with our comms and our council office, but from what I'm understanding, these meetings are taped and they're on YouTube in perpetuity. So let me check with them. Yeah, and I'll get back to you.
Great.
Awesome. With that, so David, when I brought up the event planning for 2026. It's, just to have folks like kind of think about what sort of things we might want to do coming into the new year. I think the zoning 101 training is gonna be a really good part of that for the first half of the year for sure. But I'd say anything, anything else that we might want to do as a committee, we should definitely explore and add on, just so that we're keeping things active and sharing as much things as possible.
Just from my notes, Signy, you were talking about something when I walked in the door, and recorded.
What was I talking about?
For events. 2026.
Oh, discretionary funding.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just big note that we have discretionary funding to help us with the outreach and to the community and things. It's,
This would count.
this count, it's flexible with that. This is outreach to the community. And then, I had a discussion with one of the new co-chairs of housing on CB12. It's, Indiana. She used to be on our board.
Oh.
I think I mentioned this to you, David. We had a nice chat and she is now co-chair of housing up there. And so another thought for, events, gatherings is to get together with other community boards and have a rap session.
With other housing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Specific housing co-chairs and such, which we've done in the past, but not recently, I feel like. So it'd be great to.
The last one might
Compare
have been a
notes.
panel during COVID, right? I feel like we did that on Zoom,
Yeah, I think we did, but
and before that, we had
everybody
done,
changes.
before that, we had done events like a NYCHA forum,
Yeah, and
and
April and I occasionally would, just,
an HDFC
yeah,
forum. Trying to think of other events that we've done.
yeah, but also just gathering on our own to
Mm.
compare notes and such, because. So we know her well and she's very excited and she's also very interested in a housing 101 kind of thing. So there could be the opportunity to combine efforts, Audrey. If you want CB12 to also get this and you can hit two at the same time, I think CB12 would be interested to join us as well.
Sure. That sounds great. I spoke with their board, with the Housing and Human Services Committee, I think last week. And because they're not, they're not a combined, zoning and housing, it was a little more of like a higher level overview. And then I don't know if you've spoken with Wayne recently, but I believe it was, in October, he did a training for his board, and I suggested that, he should come out to the other 12 community boards in Manhattan and do the training if he wants. It was quite good. But yeah,
Wayne,
mhm.
Wait,
Wayne Benjamin, who's Wayne?
Oh, sorry, Wayne Benjamin, the chair of the land use committee. Yeah. Yeah. But always, there's so much to cover in these trainings. So definitely, keep me informed of any, collaborations between Community Board 12 or and your board or other boards.
did you meet Indiana, Audrey?
Virtually, yes.
But she used to be on our board and we're close, so.
She's really great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Back to get back into action. She was out of the area for a while, and then she came back a few years back. She was ready to get back in action.
She's still working for county.
She's still working for the city. That got her through her accident. And everything. So she's lucky. Yeah. Said that. Good care.
Fantastic. Okay. That's literally everything I got for you. That's.
Yeah, have a yellow.
Marielle De La Cruz.
Oh, she's like, she's with Levine staff.
Mariella? Yeah.
I think so. Marielle?
Oregon?
No.
Oregon. Cause she was, she said she was from community boards, but hopefully it's going in.
Oh,
Or she might be newish then.
Yeah,
maybe, yeah.
Well, there's some, she said it's been so many years. Yeah. I think she's working in.
Well, they separate their housing and land use and zoning,
Yeah.
so maybe it was.
Okay,
Anyway,
cool. All right, that's all I got for new business. Looking at old business, do we have any updates on RKO? Like,
that's a,
I don't think since July.
yeah, that's. Good question.
Cool, cool. Is there any legislation? I don't have anything on my list. Is there anything we should be looking at?
the two pieces that I can think of, one is the bill that Senator Claire had to make it explicit that HHC goes through Euler. The second is the Senator Jackson's bill, the HDFC coalition are supporting regarding the expiring tax credit and other miscellaneous. Let me see if I can find the bill number.
So can you repeat that very dislocated?
Yes, so Senator Claire's bill,
Yeah, no, I have that one, HHC, let's go through you.
Senator Jackson on HDFCs.
yeah, let me just find the bill number. Senate Bill 880. So it is a bill that is supported by the HDFC coalition, which is a group CB9 has worked with very closely. It's co-sponsored by Senator Claire and incoming Borough President Wyman Siegel. And it clarifies that the private housing finance law is to incentivize housing development cooperatives to remain in NYC's affordable housing stock and to promote their long-term viability and continued affordability. So that's the summary, but
I would just put down the bill number.
Okay.
yeah,
That's 880.
but that, it doesn't, it looks like it's still in committee.
Okay.
Were there any other bills? There was. I didn't think so.
What's the number of the HHC bill?
I'll tell you.
Sounds clear?
Yeah.
I don't.
It is. S6685.
Developments we're watching. I'm gonna put 1727 on the top of that one. But aside from that, oh, I also have 620 West 153rd.
ESA hearing yesterday.
Oh, they had the hearing today or yesterday.
I believe it's the 8th and 9th.
Yeah. And did they make a decision?
Apparently, they're going to be, they're going to set a date for making the decision towards the end of this week. And I have a contact over at BSA who said that if I reminded her, she will be there.
Yeah.
So I'll distribute that if you want to hear.
But they got our reso as part of their input. Okay,
Yeah, or at least youth sent it over.
Yeah, you just say.
we should confirm that
Double
they,
check.
that the actual board had it in front of them, because I know them way less well than I know the CPC. So they have a pretty clear process to me, but I don't actually know what the BSA does
Okay.
in theirs. I've never watched the hearing or anything.
Okay. We'll confirm that it's. All right. Public member updates.
You've got public members that are ready and willing. One of the benefits of Sydney not being up there is that she can use her organizational skills. More to the benefit, I think, of some events and other things. But yeah, I continue to be at your disposal for, especially organizations.
We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we are much in debt to your organization.
No,
The policies and the processes. Exactly.
Do you want that in the end?
The
Oh,
Hill-
no,
My car's getting stopped by the police for having Christmas decorations.
Well, yeah.
This one should have been.
Yeah, the whole car was festive.
Really?
Yeah,
Which probably is illegal.
it was so bright that day.
Rest of us for the rest of us.
Yeah, no, one thing I wanted to make note was like, you know, from a lot of like outside folks looking in, like one of the biggest feedbacks that I'm kind of getting is like, people are really appreciating the fact that like, we're all working together, that we didn't turn this issue at 1727 into something where we could have been at each other's throats, like, and I think that was reflective from like, you know, things that are released from Columbia Spectator, to even feedback that we're getting when we're holding meetings and stuff, so like, I think that's,
With CB9 is always.
Yeah.
like that, I feel.
oh yeah, it's exciting.
Sam, this is, you know, just part of the process of making our voice heard, and if we're at each other's throats, we
Right,
get nothing done.
exactly.
We have too much to get done to not get anything done.
Exactly.
People on this board, I like you as human beings, and so why would we be at each other's throats if we respect each other?
Exactly.
Respect, trust is built, and we've worked hard to build that.
And mentorship is essential as well.
Yeah.
100%.
It's very, it's essential because I kind of contemplate, you know, people got their little, you know, picks and cherry picking and stuff like that. Well, I got this information. I'm gonna keep it to myself. I'm gonna be the gatekeeper. Oh, well, I'll do my own research.
Right.
Yeah. No, and I like that we're open.
Yeah.
One report that I have, excuse me, Chuck, is that I connected Urban Resources Institute, who have the development between Amsterdam and Convent, between, what is it, 129th and 130th?
Yeah.
They're doing a homeless shelter on one end of the lot. It's a through lot. They're doing a homeless shelter on one end and then a supportive housing, affordable housing combination on the other end. They work primarily with survivors of domestic violence.
They came before us, how long ago now? 2 years?
Several years, and we encourage them to seek an upzoning.
Right.
We're consistent. And
If not.
they were going to look at if they wanted it given city of yes. And I also connected them with the West Harlem Development Corp to talk about financing, and if they were going to do additional affordable house, like lottery affordable housing units. Maybe getting some sort of financing from the WHDC's affordable housing fund. So they had that meeting. I haven't heard the readout yet, but I've done.
Okay, that's exciting. I love that. We've all done the right thing.
Yes. And they were upfront about the soil remediation.
Ms. Chen, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just joined about 10 minutes ago, but it's a general question. Good evening, everyone. Is CB9 strategy that the only way to get more affordable housing is to allow supportive housing?
No.
No.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable about this, Barry.
So and you expressed that 2 years ago or whatever, when they came before us and we brought it up. I think that the attractiveness of this particular development was that all of the affordable housing units were going to be at 40% AMI, which is the actual level of affordability for the district. And that was, you know, a very good thing for us. B, they're remediating what is essentially a blighted lot, like an actually blighted lot, not like a fake blighted lot. It's an industrial lot that's been vacant for 20 to 40 years, probably. And they're doing the soil remediation necessary to clean up the contaminated soil. So they're providing a lot of benefit to the community on a block that's kind of dead. And, you know, I think that we were hoping that this would result in additional deeply affordable units that our community needs. And it was also not city-owned land. It was a privately owned lot that they had purchased.
Why are we not encouraging developers to reserve space for creatives? Not
are.
free, but as opposed to supportive housing.
Well, that's in our budget priorities is additional funding for that funding stream that they used in the projects on the east side of the Bronx or whatever. In this particular case, it was very clear that URI, having purchased the lot, they're involved in the continuum of services from, initial entry into the shelter system for survivors of domestic violence through placement into permanent housing. And so I think this project made more sense. I don't know that it would have been a good candidate for art space, and I think it would have complicated their financing. I think we could talk to them about, using some of the additional FAR from City of Yes for community facility space for the arts. I think their community facility space might have been a daycare as well.
Well, daycare is good because we don't have enough daycare centers in the neighborhood. But I'm just concerned about, whenever I hear upzoning, we want more affordable housing, the supportive housing is always there. And I think if it depends on the funding stream that are out there, then perhaps we should try to look at some other funding streams to recommend. I'm sure the developers know, but what those might be. But, just look at what other funding streams there are, federal and state, city, that we can push them in that direction. So they don't always think that, it's only about credit, tax credits or whatever bonus, their City of Yes is offering for supportive housing or whatever, that we introduce something new into the mix.
Yeah, the City of Yes bonus applies to non-supportive affordable housing. This is the third development for which we've suggested an upzoning that involved a supportive housing component. Obviously 1727 being another, and the third being 1763 Amsterdam, which they had proposed a homeless shelter. We had said that we would prefer a mix of permanent, supportive, and affordable housing. We had a deal for Broadway Housing to buy it and do that. The Attorney General kind of bigfooted in and sued one of the church that was involved with it, and so Broadway Housing walked away, and now it's going to be a shelter. But so this is the third instance where we've done that. We've also been fairly consistent about suggesting upzonings in cases where it would result in a significant increase in affordable housing, even if the project does not have any supportive component. It's just that I think people are attempting to strike while the funding is there. The state passed a very large chunk of supportive housing funding, I think under Cuomo in 2018, maybe, that's still being spent down. And so I suspect that's why you're seeing relatively more of those projects than we might have in the 5 to 10 years prior to that funding.
Yeah, well, the other part of that is the city itself is prioritizing for nonprofits to purchase their own space to develop these things, as opposed to what we would want before would be, you know, if the city were to acquisition a property to provide, you know, to work with a nonprofit. The city itself is pushing for more nonprofits to buy their own
They don't
locations.
have to be developed.
Right,
Well, and they're also, but they've also been pushed slightly away from the for-profit developer model,
right.
although not that much because of 100 Gold they just announced today is going to be in a for-profit.
Mhm.
developer.
I just see, you know, a different direction happening in the South Bronx and in East Harlem. And, you know, away from the supportive and more towards building, you know, equity in the creative sector, whether it's ownership of space or, you know, whatever. And I just think that we,
Do you know
we,
where the funding for that has come from, Yuan? Have you?
no, I don't have the details. I'm just reading, you know, things that cross my desk and, and, and information that comes up during our meeting. I just think we need to think differently about it.
First,
Yeah.
you missed the first part of the meeting where we went over George Faison is applying for the lifting of a deed restriction on the garden vacant lot next to the firehouse.
Mhm, mhm.
And one of the potential outcomes that we talked about was if he's selling the firehouse, selling it to an arts-focused nonprofit so that it can be maintained as a community facility, arts performance venue.
Right, right,
So it's on the committee's radar, definitely.
Right.
yeah. Knowing George, he will go with whoever gives him the highest dollar.
Well, but at the same time, you know, we have no interest in just letting him do that and giving him the public benefit of removal of a deed restriction that the public put on that property before they.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he was in Central Harlem. I did not realize.
The bleeding edge,
Right at the border.
Yeah.
but that's Councilmember Salam.
Mhm. Okay.
But I think there is this perception that we take more of those projects than most people. And I don't know if it's a real one, but
I think it's real. I think it's real.
and I think in addition to that, I think we've been lied so much,
Mm.
and I think that creates a lot of
Yeah, that part.
animosity for projects.
Talk about trust and respect, right?
Yes, and I think I myself, I tend to be the person who says no until you prove it. And I think as long as been here, we have negotiated with a lot of really good people. But the people that we negotiate with and lie to us, they get away with it. You know, like that gentleman, he was an architect and he came here to show a so-called book, but in reality, he came here to tell us that his building, his crappy building on 140 over the Amtrak tracks had passed. And I was like, who is this man? It was so awful. It was such an awful experience. We were all cringing this, and this guy was gloating. It was disgusting.
Oh, dang.
Well, you know.
I think-
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have to go through that. Hours of our
Right.
lives going through that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So I'm just saying that in terms of perception, the people, the homeowners in Golden Avenue and a lot of other areas feel like we are taking too much. Or taking too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
And I'd say as like as a board stance, one of the things that I was really happy to see with our like budget priorities is we're specifically like increasing the priorities for, you know, more facilities for the arts, more housing for artists, things of that nature. And I think it's really good in that sense.
Housing for families. I keep harping on this.
Yeah,
If you go-
families, young families, and senior
Yeah,
housing,
principle,
and
what is
senior
the
housing.
priority that he has for his kids is housing for those kids. When I started Randolph in 2004, maybe I could count in one hand how many kids I knew were homeless from what they talked to me about and how they carry themselves. But now it's so many. You have classrooms.
It's
You-
huge.
Randolph has clothing every single day for kids to give them out every morning. so that they can wear something different, so that nobody knows
Oh
that
my
they
God.
are coming from shelter.
Wow.
That is.
Well,
what-
they're coming from the shelter and the supportive housing
And that's
sector.
what- So, housing for families, that's
What
what I want to
school
say.
is this?
Randall.
Cause I'll give them clothes.
No, we
I-
It's like 15% of the entire student population in public schools in New York City is
Indeed,
homeless.
Right.
indeed.
Right.
Look at that.
That's like 1 out of 7.
It's grown, my grandkids is just like 3 and the other ones is grown, but oh my God.
It's got.
I mean, if they need anything, I sew, stuff that I sewn that I haven't even used, I'll donate it. Oh my God.
That's terrible.
I,
Yes.
I just want to say one thing and then I'm done, that, you know, as we move forward, you know, with projects that approach that come in front of the community board, that, you know, we think beyond the housing and just think holistically what it means for the community, you know? Right now, you know, the restaurants and the businesses are suffering. You know, we have to get back to building the tax base. And I don't mean luxury apartment, but, you know, middle class families who are seeking housing and maybe interested in home ownership. You know, I mean, every action has what do you call it? Some kind of results, you know. So if we
Yeah.
continue along this track of deep affordable housing and supportive housing, just remember that is an impact in the infrastructure. It is especially the commercial corridors, and you know what, the schools, you know, everything else that make up this this neighborhood or this community. That's all I have to say.
So you should talk to Senator Claire's office, because that's a big thing of hers these days. She's beating the drum a lot on affordable home ownership in the district. But I think that's also a priority for us. I feel like a lot of times we play defense on that because we're so worried about keeping the affordable home ownership that we do have with HDFCs. And trying to get new HDFCs finally converted from TIL buildings. But there is a very limited amount of developable land in the district, which is why when we get an opportunity to influence the course of land being developed, we try to push for as much affordable housing as possible, just because we know that given what landlords are doing to the private stock of affordable housing that's rent regulated, that is shrinking, and we're not bringing enough units online to keep up with that. And obviously we need to stop the shrinking and enforce the rent regulations and housing code better. And that's something I care about. Well, like it's
Yeah.
the above approach that the board has been tackling for at least the past 10 years to varying degrees of success.
Okay.
Talking about affordable housing, but just listening to the homelessness, you know, if they were to get into a unit, it couldn't be affordable for them. It would have to be
Yeah.
low income housing as well.
Yeah.
That has to be initially,
Yeah.
you know, because it's crazy. I didn't even know it was that much.
And that's what
homelessness.
supportive housing is meant to encompass, and this is why the 1727 project is so frustrating, is that for years, one of the reasons this board was so supportive of supportive housing is that we had really good models of balanced, well-developed supportive housing projects in the district. And so we knew that what high-quality supportive housing looked like. And it is very obvious to us that the proposed supportive housing of the form that BRC and the city are proposing is not what we like and not what we support and not what has served our community so well. And in doing so, they've kind of tainted the brand, so to speak, of supportive housing in CB9, which up until this point actually had a fairly good reputation because we had high quality providers who did a good job of operating what is fundamentally permanent housing for people who were formerly homeless.
Right.
And that is a huge part of the answer to homelessness is good supportive housing. It's just very obvious that this proposal is not good supportive housing.
Right. Damn.
So that's deeply frustrating in that like they're poisoning the well on supportive housing, and that's extraordinarily irritating.
Yes.
We definitely look forward to seeing what the new administration does for sure.
No, I don't look forward.
I'm curious.
I think give the guy a chance. You have to, you call before you walk, so give him a shot.
Yeah.
He deserves it.
All right, NYCHA updates. I don't have anything.
Well, I went to the NYCHA meeting, which was their last one, because I had to find out what Valorian was doing. Well, Valorian's gonna be a new mom. She's gonna be a new mother. I went and she was covering a whole heap of stuff that NYCHA's not doing. And I wasn't surprised. A lot of the older residents are in dire need of repair of their homes. I'm still hammering out getting the doors done. They put in a hydraulic door closure in one of my buildings, but the door, the main door that you use the key with, that still remains open. I've been working with Allison from Micah Lasse's office. She's been working with me, Allison, and Gabrielle up at Sean's office. But it's like pulling tooth and nail. It's because, like I keep telling these people, I'm paying mortgage rent. Now they're doing gas lines. So you have the construction guys coming in and out. They put these makeshift incinerators in that should have been in 8 years ago. It's a mess with that. It really is. And I'm trying to garner up people to, this is not what you're supposed to accept. As long as you accept this, because look at the buildings that they're erecting around us. You have 11 Hancock. You got the 14 of Columbia. I could look into their apartments. They're paying $5,000 a month, and NYCHA's buildings are deteriorating. Okay, so the only way that they want the ground. I mean, the grounds are Columbia, and they're renting out for what, the 99 years as well. You understand what I'm saying? But where there's a will, there's a way. And just like the gentleman in the back, we are a rich city, country. Nobody's supposed to live the way they live. I'm sorry. And I, for one, refuse to move from the area that I'm in because everything is readily available. All the amenities are there. You understand? So you wouldn't be building all of these rooftop gardens and things of that nature. I did matter of fact, I did the survey that they sent for the that Ashley sent. One of the students from Columbia sent a survey about the rooftops, greenery or whatever. So I implemented that. I said, well, yeah, I would love to have a rooftop too in NYCHA. Okay, but and if I had to do it myself, yeah, I would be a part of that. But how is it that when I do my research, they said most of the rooftops are in affluent neighborhoods? Well, I'm steps away from all of these luxury buildings while I'm living in a building that's deteriorating. You know, so come on, give us a break here.
Yeah. Bettine, do you know, I thought when we had submitted the capital funding request for grant houses, NYCHA had come back to us and said that the physical needs assessment money for grant had been allocated, which was surprising to us. But
As far as I think.
okay, then we need to talk to whoever returns that.
Almost
Yeah,
done.
because grant in total has nearly $1 billion.
Okay.
I mean, it's part,
Yeah.
unless there's like a project underway where they're planning to use money from that project to like fund it, but not that I know
And to piggyback, remember when I think it was my first meeting here, and they had, Victor was saying that money was allocated like $3 million for programs, but there's no programs. So where's the money?
It's sitting in escrow accounts at the
Yeah.
West Harlem Development Corp.
of. Yeah.
You say, take that money, secure us seniors especially, because the feedback we're getting is that, oh, things are working when they're not working.
There's a new committee that was formed to monitor.
When you said, I'm sorry, in escrow, Barry?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was supposed to be a joint thing. Grant and Manhattanville agreed to divide it.
Mhm.
And then the TAs effectively, and so I think there is a committee that makes recommendations, can recommend expenditures from those funds.
Yeah, because I've been reading up on that too, a lot about that. I'm like,
It's a CBA.
Yeah.
There is a new committee that's looking at the CBA. And.
Are you talking about us?
You're talking about strategic planning?
Planning, that's not new, it's been around.
That's a 12 or 13-year-old committee that deals
Yeah,
with
but that was so. You said, and I think that they had.
That's always been that strategic planning. Since Victor, because Victor was the first chair of strategic planning committee under Reverend Morgan Thomas, starting at least 2012. And basically the sole mandate of that time at that time was the CBA. When Victor became chair, I think he added the budget process to the strategic planning commission remit. And I chaired the strategic planning committee. And we did the budget requests through them as well as CBA compliance. And so I think they've just appointed a new chair to it now.
Yeah, I got the sense that there was a lot of concern about money not being spent out of that.
The only pool of money besides the NYCHA pools, there are two others where money is not being spent significantly. One is the Affordable Housing Fund, complicated history there. The other is the in-kind benefits, which are not funds per se. They're, the ability to use Columbia space or services.
Right.
And they charge against this allocation
For the general meetings.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Why is it impossible to fix NYCHA? I heard
right,
AOC say that we need $100 billion to fix housing in New York City.
billion.
Yeah, no,
Billion, yeah.
we could
a
dedicate
B.
an entire
We
day.
came close to getting an enormous chunk of money for NYCHA Capital.
Yeah, but why can't this lady
On
get
fire.
her stuff
Done.
fixed?
That's it.
Well, I mean, that part's easy. Why should a New York person convince 49 other representatives from different states to give billions of dollars to just one area?
Right.
Like that's the thing. Like
No.
she's
We truly choose to spend money on the wrong things. But why these buildings surrounded by prime real estate areas? Are they making sure that building is dilapidated at some point so they can destroy?
That's what I contemplated.
They've been making
I
more of
contemplate
that
that.
since at least the 70s and
Right.
definitely the 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
In the 70s, Nixon slashed capital funding for new public housing.
Mm-hmm.
In the 90s, Republicans slashed maintenance payments. And they slashed these payments so that it would dilapidate, so that they would have to privatize it.
Yeah.
And NYCHA has held on for 30 years, but is finally caving.
yeah. No, and we're also talking about money that the state used to give. The reason Manhattanville didn't get a choice in whether they switched is because it was state funded. That's what a lot of
It was
state,
not funded.
until it was not funded. It stopped through Pataki. Nature had to use operating funds from, they had to take from Paul and give to Peter.
Mhm.
Nobody was filling in those gaps. That's the biggest part of the whole thing is nobody knows how NYCHA works. And NYCHA grabs money from one thing, puts it in another and keeps moving money around.
So this lady will never get her stuff fixed?
Oh, you have to convince 49 other states that they should put their taxpayer money into one.
Or you're
into
gonna stick it in
one
the bill,
organization.
where they've got their bridges to nowhere and their
Yeah,
firefighting fund. Why should we pay for wildfires in California?
yeah.
Because it's we're one country,
Yeah.
and that's why.
Tesla rents a plant upstate New York for $1.
The solar
A
farm?
month, yeah,
Yeah.
and we do that. We do that, the state of New York,
Oh, yeah.
Cuomo did that.
I don't think we can solve that one.
Right.
Stop.
Oh,
It's that,
Yeah. so we're at 8:40. Can
I
get a
would
mo-
like to motion to adjourn this lovely meeting.
That, I second.
And happy holidays.
Happy holiday, yeah.
Merry Christmas, but I celebrate New Year's.
Okay,
Hey.
happy New Year.
Happy
All
holidays.
this stuff, I should be at home.
Kwanzaa,
Yeah.
happy, all those things.
No more those holidays.
Got it.
A house, I wouldn't be living in a project.
I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and we look forward to having you at our next
And then
monthly meeting. Have a great evening, everyone.
Like-
Very good.
Yes,
Step
sounds great.
two, that is gonna.
Oh, and I think